So this meeting will be recorded, and we'll post it a little bit later on our YouTube channel. And I'll send out an email as well with a link to that a little bit later. Do we have any program announcements? I have a big program announcement. A very sad program announcement. Christine Chaplin, who's been with us for a little over 3 years now, is going to be leaving at the end of the month for greener pastures, I assume. We want to wish her well, and she came in at a really critical time for us, right at the start of COVID. Helped us out, helped Hawaiʻi, helped DOH out. Really important that she came at that time, because we wouldn't have been able to do it without her. So really grateful to have had her for the 3 years, and wish her well. Joan is crying. Other program news, I do want to remind everybody about the Esri user conference coming up in July. I think it's the second week of July. Is that right? Second week of July. If you have travel funds and would like to go, please email gis@hawaii.gov and let us know. Joan has just a handful of complimentary registrations still available to us. That helps out a little bit. The biggest cost, of course, is airfare and accommodations. But if you have travel money and you're interested in going, please get in touch with us if you haven't already. And I'm going to ask Gretchen and/or Todd a little bit later to maybe say a little bit more about the UC. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Tony Kimmet from US Department of Ag. Tony, you're going to have to explain to me what all these acronyms mean. I have no idea. FPAC-BC-GEO. NRCS, I know. I don't know FSA or RMA. But you've been with USDA for over 35 years, so I guess you know what they mean. Tony has been really a partner to the state and to this agency, the GIS program, for years and years and years, for decades. Really been helpful with getting imagery for the state of Hawaii, and we've been able to share much of that through our program, through our downloads, and making that imagery available. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Tony.
Okay, you'll have to enable me to
okay.
Screen share.
That's the least of my worries this morning. Okay, you should be enabled.
All right. I'm going to enable my entire screen. And hello, everyone. Technical difficulties is a fact of life. So I understand. Okay, let's see if I can share my screen fully here. And see if I can move this a little bit. Yep, there we go. Okay, well, how do I close this out? Okay, hopefully it'll let me keep it there. Okay, very good. Yeah, my name is Tony Kimmet, and I work for the United States Department of Agriculture. FPAC stands for Farm Production and Conservation. There is 3 agencies that are part of FPAC, and that includes NRCS. Many of you have probably already worked with them, as well as FSA and RMA. And so I work for a part of FPAC, the GEO branch, and I'm the National Imagery Leader. So I'm going to go through these things here, these talking points. Just something I always bring this up there, and I'm sure people, if they've heard my presentations before, have heard that, and that is that we do try to get geospatial, high quality geospatial data for all regions of the United States, and that includes Hawaii, Alaska, the US Pacific Basin, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands. We don't show geospatial bias. We try to really hard to get good data everywhere. And we collaborate with a lot of other federal agencies, including USGS, the Forest Service, Department of Interior, all the agencies, including USGS, Park Service, and so forth. That we even work with Department of Defense. And so we also go and provide additional funding to allow publishing of our image services, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, to the general public. And so you can access a lot of what you're going to see here. And the FPAC Business Center GEO, we administrate the largest civilian imagery program in the federal government outside of the Department of Defense. So we have spent over $300 million. Actually, it's about $350 now. We just initiated some new contracts. So one of the things I also want to mention here too is we're just not some far away place. We work and we live where you do too. So NRCS and FSA, we have 12 service centers in Hawaii, Guam, Mariana Islands, Palau, and the Federated States of Micronesia. I should also put in there American Samoa. We also have a plant materials center that's on Molokai. You know, we work here. We collaborate with others. Don't mind me, I'm going to fly through some of these. I'm going to make this entire slide deck available to you. There are some links on there that you may wish to have. And so I'll make this available to Arthur and anyone else. We collaborate together on getting orthoimagery in the United States through a program called NDOP, or the National Digital Orthophoto Program. And so, you know, we believe heavily in, you know, collecting data once and sharing it with everyone, including other federal, state, and local agencies. And so nonprofit organizations, anyone who possibly can. So just very briefly, this was the very first imagery acquisition that we did. It was an aerial acquisition from 1997 to 2003. It says 99 to 2003. And we used one of the very first digital cameras that was available in Hawaii. We collected CIR, and after about 5 years, we collected 75% of the island successfully. And believe it or not, that was actually a big success, especially back then. And this is what it looked like. It was CIR. And so we couldn't complete all of the acquisition of the Hawaiian Islands. And so we turned at that point to getting data from essentially a satellite provider, which was Digital Globe. Now it's Maxar. And so after about 5 years, we did get complete coverage of all the major Hawaiian islands. And so it took a while, but we did get it with the QuickBird 2 sensor satellite. And after we got done with that, we went on to collect basically all the PAC Basin. And so we also did something that was pretty unique. And Joan, who may be on here, she knows that we've been working, as well as many others, that we've been working on a upgraded end user license agreement. And if you get satellite data is, if it comes from a commercial provider like Planet Labs or Maxar or you know, one of the companies in Europe, Black Sky, et cetera, they're always licensed. And so you have to use the data within the license that you purchase. And we upgraded the license. We were the first ones to negotiate an enhanced license that allowed us to share all the data to not only all the federal government, but also to state governments, local governments, universities, NPOs, and private citizens. In fact, the end user license agreement, basically, it only prevents third-party vendors like Esri and Google, or anyone who wants to sell the data. There are some companies, GIS companies especially, they go out there, they take data, they do something to it, they repackage it and resell it. And this license doesn't cover that. You have to get a separate license from Maxar to do that sort of thing. But we are able to share this data essentially with everyone. That's the satellite portion of what I'm going to talk about. I'm mostly going to talk about NAPE. But this is also one of the other acquisitions we had in Hawaii, 2010, 2012. This is when the Worldviews 2 and 3 started becoming available. And so USDA has been really very much out there trying to collect imagery data for Hawaii for quite a long time. And we've been successful at doing that, with our partners in the satellite community. So this one right here is what I really was trying to get to. There's a lot of exciting news going on for Hawaiian Islands as well as for the PAC Basin. That is Hawaii is kind of unique for us. It is difficult for us to get, and we issued a satellite request, which is MaxR right here, and we've provided that data to the state of Hawaii a few years ago, along with metadata and so on and so forth. And you could publish this in the form of a web map service to the outside. We got that license to be able to do that. But I'm going to talk about NAPE, and that's going to be one of the big things, or most I'm going to talk about in this presentation. But we're still collecting satellite data for Hawaii and PAC Basin as well. So we're going to kind of go through all of this. And I've got links you're going to see along the way. And a lot of these links are for compressed county mosaics that are on the gateway. So I'm going to talk about mostly today is about NAPE for Hawaii. We went and contracted for the very, very first time, and I think this will be, we contracted Hawaii as part of a USDA BPA that we have. We have a BPA where we have about $180 million of approval to acquire imagery for NAPE, and these are internal USDA programs like NRI and so on and so forth. We have the ability of buying data from 15, 30, or 60 centimeters resolution. And this is the part I want to, especially emphasize. We also have the ability of collecting data in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands for the first time. And so that was baked into our new contract. And so in NAPE 2021, and that's sometimes how long it takes to get this stuff done, we did something really unique. We actually contracted as part of NAPE for the first time ever in the program history. And the program started in 2003. We contracted Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And so those contracts were issued in the summer of 2021. And they start collecting late in 2021, and they finished in 2023. Typically, most of these states can be done in one flying season, usually somewhere between 1 month to 3 months is the typical for most of these states. But in the case of Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and Hawaii, it takes us considerably longer. In fact, the contractor that did the work that I'm going to show you is from Hexagon. They had to go out to Hawaii for 2 different time periods to be able to get it done. And so the NAPE for Hawaii, this was our very first effort. NAPE stands for the National Agricultural Imagery Program. This was aerial. It's an aerial acquisition for Hawaii. It took about 2 years. The contract, what we receive is for 60 centimeters. But imagery was actually collected at 30 and 15 over Honolulu and Kahului. And so I'm going to show you the difference in that. And that is a licensed data set. And so that can be a little confusing, but I'm going to do a summary on that, on how you can possibly get that data. You can't really get it through me, but you can get it from Hexagon. And I'll show you kind of the differences between it. So here's the new NAPE data. This is the CIR data set. I just made these slides for the Pacific Rim GIS conference from roughly about a month or so ago. And so this is the CIR data set. You can see it's for all the Hawaiian Islands, and includes Kahalawi and Malakini Crater and et cetera. I think that there's another island near Niihau that's also been collected. And so the data that we received, what we received is 4 multispectral bands. So it's red, green, blue, and IR. So we do collect 4 bands. So we make natural color and color infrared. Now, when it comes to NAPE data, I can make mosaics, or I can ask them to be created. We fund that separately, and we have those available. And I'm going to give you a link on how you can get to that data today. The GeoTIFF files will be available to the state of Hawaii, and you probably want those for building like web map services, that sort of thing. They have to go through a QA/QC first. before I could release them, because to be completely frank, about 10% of all the data that comes into GEO, we have to turn around and have the contractors redo because of tonal issues or some issue with the quality of the data. And so they will update the GeoTIFF files. And so I don't want to release them really until after we know they're finalized, or at least have fairly good belief that they won't be changed. So here's the natural color. So there's the CIR, there's the natural color. And right now, the mosaics by island are available right there at this spot. They're available on the gateway. So if you type in USDA gateway and you go to direct data download, you'll find at the very, very bottom, I think I've got this on the next slide. Yep, there we go. You'll see an area on a menu in front of you. It says US PAC-Basin Islands, and then just, look for Hawaii, and you'll see some other ones there like Guam and so on and so forth. And under Hawaii, we've got Impress County mosaics, and they're available right now. They're 60 centimeter resolution. They're both natural color and CIR, and they are separated. We do 2-band or 3-band mosaics. So, we do natural color and then CIR, and CIR is bands 4, 2, and 3. It emits the blue band. And we have some information on how to utilize or look at the Mr. SID files. So we got a PDF for that. And so that is the direct link right now. And if I select that, you'll see that this gets to the folder where the data is at right now. And so there's Hawaii. And here is the Mr. SID mosaics. It does include seam lines, which I'll discuss here in a little bit. And then there's where the mosaics are at. And I got some JPEG information as well as some PDFs. And there's some other things that are available too. And I'm going to talk about this at the very end, but on how you could use that data, not only in like ArcMap and ArcPro, but like the web map services that we're working on right now on how they can be used like in QGIS and that sort of thing. So let me see, I gotta somehow iconify this again. Maybe I'll just promote my PowerPoint tab. All right. So the Hawaii mosaics are listed by FIPS code. And so Hawaii Island is this, and here's the FIPS codes for these islands right here. And then it's list how all this information is put into here. So this is a standard approach that we have in USDA in disseminating data. And so we use FIPS codes, county names, so on and so forth. And so all this is pretty well spelled out, and it's also inside the folder on Box Cloud Services. Now, the one area where you might see something that looks a little bit strange is Hawaii Island, because it's split into 2 mosaics. And I've also got this explained in a document in there. And what you have to do is make sure that your background essentially is 0 and that no data has no color. And if you do that, then the what looks like a missing area of data, it disappears. So this is strictly for the mosaics that you have access to now. Before we finish, I'll talk a little bit about the GeoTIFF files. So I just want to show you just real quickly some of the data and how they put together. And when they do the data acquisitions, they largely do them east to west, which is a little bit different because in the majority of the United States, it's done north to south. But in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and Alaska, a lot of that stuff is done east to west. And so these were the strips that were put together for going flight line strips or putting together this mosaic that you see in front of you. And so you could see, I put this, we've got Esri shape files that are available, and they're also called seamline files on how the mosaic is constructed and what the exact image data is for any place on land areas in Hawaii. And by the way, this type of information also comes when we get it from Maxar satellite data. We get exactly the same thing. It's important. The most important question that almost everyone always asks us is, well, when was the imagery I'm looking at, when was it collected for the area I'm at? And so I just took screen snapshots. I'm not going to stick around for all this stuff, but you know, I'll show a few bit more in North Oahu. And you can see when the image dates are right here. And you can see that for Oahu, the image dates, in some cases, most of them are in 2022. Most of the island was collected in 2022. But about 5% of the island was collected in 2023 in January. And that's why I was saying that they had to come back on over and get some areas that are kind of typically very, very difficult, including, of course, the mountain ranges in the Hawaiian Islands, and there's numerous ones, of course. And so here's one of the things I was just trying to show here, that, you know, here's the downtown Honolulu area right here when it was collected, and there are some 2023 acquisitions, and you can see that here's some of the areas where they're at. So I took a little bit more than usual screen snapshots for Oahu. Occasionally you will see a puff of clouds. It's almost impossible to get all of Hawaii cloud free, but it's very minimal. You probably, I'd be willing to bet, I haven't looked at it exactly right down to percentage. I think it's probably right around 99% cloud free, which is really, really good for the Hawaiian Islands. And most of the clouds usually are somewhere in a mountain area. So I'm going through these pretty quick because I think that you can look at this in the slide deck or look at the data itself. Now here's some of the natural color imagery for Maui, and I just want to show some natural color data. Now, what I'm going to talk about next is about the Hexagon HXGN content program, because what's really interesting about NAEP is it has basically its own industry in the inside. USDA contracts out typically mostly for 60 centimeter data, but we have one vendor, and it's Hexagon, that will actually go and collect the data at a higher resolution. They do this on their own because Hexagon sells the data in the form of a streaming service. And the streaming service is called HXGN. This streaming service is also sold, by the way, to, I believe, a corporate client. And you may know them because if you've got an iPhone and you use the Maps app on it, some of the data for that comes from Hexagon, and they go and process that and sell it to Apple for their Maps app on their cell phones. And so what this does is USDA gets a public domain version, completely usable, completely distributable. You can put this on any website. You can make this data available to anyone you want at 60 centimeters. But Hexagon does have a 30 centimeter product that's available for all the Hawaiian Islands, which I'll talk about in just a moment, and 15 centimeters for a few select areas. And so I've got some contact info if you're interested in this higher resolution data. Now, NRCS or USDA, we do have licenses for HXGN, and I'll show you a couple of screen snapshots from HXGN in a minute and just kind of show you the difference and how it's beneficial, you know, if it's applicable to you. And so I want to show you here that they do have 30 centimeter available for the Hawaiian Islands from a previous acquisition around 2016 that they did on their own. It wasn't part of NAEP. And then they, for this new release, the first official contracting of NAEP data for Hawaii, they did collect 30 and 15 in a few areas. And so here's what I was mentioning here. Hexagon HXGN was collected at 30 centimeters for all areas that you see in blue. And then it was 15 centimeters where you see it in orange. So this data set, the 30 and the 15, I don't have it. We may buy, maybe the next time we do NAEP, let's say if there's NAEP 2024 or 2026 or something like that, we may do 30 centimeter acquisitions everywhere. But when this was done in 2021, it was a 60 centimeter acquisition. It is collected at a higher resolution. You can get a license for this data. And I believe you can incorporate it into mapping apps. You'd have to discuss this with them, but I know they allow that to happen. But this data has been done. And so this is what I want to show people. What does 60 centimeter get you that you don't get with, or what 30 centimeter gets you, which you don't get at 60? It really comes down to a matter of scale. If you're looking at a parcel of land at about 1 to 2,500 or higher, up to 1 to 500,000 or something like that, you can't tell the difference between 60 and 30 or 15. You can't. It's when you zoom into more of, let's say, like a city block, or if you're using a scale of 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 1,500, this is where you can see the difference. So here's 60 centimeter at 1 to 1,000, and here's 30 centimeter at 1 to 1,000. And so you can see that the definition of objects on the ground, essentially the detail on the ground, is a lot better for a 30 centimeter when you start working at this scale. And so USDA is starting to work at that scale. And so it just so happens that with NAEP 2023, we're contracting most of NAEP at 30 centimeter now, because we need it for other programs within USDA and NRCS specifically. And so what I want to mention is that Hexagon has also mentioned, they've also told us that starting with NAEP 2022, and it started last year, and it includes this is NAEP 2022, this will include for any states they do for NAEP 2023, they're going to start collecting everything at 15 centimeter. So in the future, we believe that everything will be collected at 15 centimeter. And you have to, so what is the NAEP HXGN, or excuse me, Hexagon HXGN? It's a high resolution aerial imagery streaming service. They also sometimes collect elevation data and do 3D models and analytics and so on and so forth. And so it's used in a lot of applications. And so it just so happens that USDA has many licenses of HXGN, and we do use it, especially when we're doing things like construction projects. Like if we build a dam or we do a conservation project, sometimes we need that extra clarity, that extra resolution, and we will use it. So I've mentioned about Hexagon having 15 centimeter resolution data, and you can get a license, and the license is about $1,500. It's $1,500 for a floating license. This means it's a license that can be used by more than one person. And so we have right now about 100 floating licenses that we use within USDA for doing work like that, including in Hawaii. So now this is newer information, and unfortunately I can't compare it for a 2016. I don't have any high resolution for 2022 yet. That's going to be made available later on Hexagon's HXGN streaming service, but they do have 2016. And so this is in Honolulu. And this is what I just wanted to kind of show you is a little bit of the difference. The 60 centimeter data is certainly, this data we just collected in Hawaii is really good. And it's probably fine for most things, depending upon your application. But this is what the 15 centimeter data will look like, more or less, in Oahu. And so you could, see windshields of cars. The detail is just a lot better. And so, as I mentioned here, if you're working at a scale of about 1 to 500 to 1 to 2,400, you'll notice the difference with higher resolution data versus NAEP at 60 centimeter. So, if you're going to work at that higher resolution, you can get a license. So here's some of the other ones that I showed some other people recently on a meeting last week, and I want to show them. Here's one for California. So here's the scale, and this is the scale thing I was talking about earlier. At 1 to 5,000, you can see that it really shows up about the same. So 15 centimeter, 60 centimeter. This is a little bit different of a 60 centimeter product. It's a different web map service, but you can still see that it's coarser than the 15 centimeter for California. So here's the 15 centimeter for California. And then if you go and do 15 centimeter with CONUS NAIP, which is, it's another type of web map service we have within USDA. It uses image server technology. And if anyone wants me to talk about that, I could talk a little bit about difference in technologies and web map services. But we employ two different types of technologies for web map services. One of them brings data to the screen real fast, and it's kind of, it's a cache tile service. It's like the Google Maps where they almost fly up on the screen. But image server services are what really USDA is going to. They're quicker to build, but they also allow you for downloading data, because an image server service has at the very base level the actual data you receive. So the 60 centimeter data that we will receive in the form of GeoTIFF files is part of this web map service. And internally, anyways, in USDA, we make these data sets downloadable within our own agency. And so we could zoom into an area and we can select it and download it. And so you can't do that with a tiled cache tile service. A cache tile service is basically pretty pictures, but it's not the real data, and you can't really download it. So I'm going to talk just briefly about the high resolution satellite imagery, and then, maybe you can give me, if you have any questions, we can talk about that. And so, and this gets into more recent, how we're getting high resolution satellite data. Unfortunately, this is kind of difficult for me to see if I can, yeah, maybe I can put it down. No, I got to keep it up here. So the high resolution satellite data from about 2004 to 2020, we would go and actually task data, and where I work at, we would put together the mosaics after a lot of work. And it was taking us between 3 to 5 years to just do one geographical area between the tasking and getting a mosaic together. And we could probably only really do 1 or 2 areas a year because it just took so much work. And we know that you, the GIS users, want rapid access to imagery. We know you want it immediately. If the data gets old, it's not as good to you. It's not as important. You want to see what the most recent and latest and greatest data is. And so we changed the way that we are getting data, and it's also coming this way from one vendor in particular. Maxar, also known as Digital Globe, now puts together the data themselves into their own mosaics, and they do this for Hawaii every year. So every year they put together whatever is the best available imagery, and it could have been collected in 2019, it could be collected yesterday, but they put it together once a year, usually in the fall, and they call that Vivid Base Map. And so we buy those now, as opposed to getting the actual files from the satellite scenes, because we just weren't getting this done fast enough to meet our customer expectations. So we're doing this now for every place that we use satellite data. And so this is what we get right here. It is Maxar Vivid. And now we're started this year with getting 30 centimeter data. And so we're getting 30 centimeter data from Maxar from their higher resolution satellites, WorldView 2, 3, and GEOI 1. And so this is what we're getting now. What we did for in the beginning, because it was in the beginning, starting in 2020, we got the first versions of Hawaii imagery from Maxar and Vivid. And we purchased it in 2020, 2021. And then these other areas, as you see the dates as marked or labeled. And we upgraded this data set. We upgraded the end user license agreement so that we could share it with the state of Hawaii. And so Joan Santos went and received a copy of this data set, and I think it's being used on your own as your own imagery based on your internal as well as external web map services where you have aerial photography, or in this case, satellite imagery. And so what we're doing now is we've got new image services, and these are publicly available as well. We have them for all these islands right here, Hawaii, Guam, all the way down here. And we have them on a site that you can access. The ones we have right now are 50 centimeter because that was what was available. But we're going to be making 30 centimeters now in the future. Most of the imagery for Hawaii, usually about 75% of it was collected within the last 2 years or so, give or take a little bit. And when we get this data, we this is about the end user license agreement. And I think that we've already talked about this with the exception of one factor. We can make this available where, where you can go and display it. You just can't download it. That's not allowable under the license. So our license allows us to distribute this to all users. And when we get new Maxar data that the state of Hawaii is interested in, including the state of Hawaii, but we also are going to be getting in, for example, the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. That's already here, actually. We're going to work that into our data sets soon. But the data we can distribute to all these entities you can see right here. And it can be used in presentations, it can be used in publicly accessible websites. The major thing for this is the public-facing websites would not allow downloading the originally received licensed data. That's not allowable by the license. If it's an internal site, and let's say only the state of Hawaii employees can access, then you can make that allowable for download. And we do that in USDA. We actually keep 2 versions of our web map services. We keep one internal where people could download the data, and the external one, then you could use it as a image reference. You could see the imagery. You could put it in a map. You could actually produce and download the map, but the original data you're not supposed to allow downloading of, and we don't make that available on ours. And of course, like I mentioned about third-party resellers. So for 2023, what we're working on right this very minute, and I'm not sure if you have an interest in this, but we do work with a lot of other entities, governments in the Pacific, and we are going to acquire. We've already started. I've got Guam right now. The Mariana Islands has arrived. We gotta get some more data for it. American Samoa and Palau are here and they're done. They're complete. And we also got the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, and we received it. We got a 30 centimeter version. And so we're going to keep 2 versions of all of our image server services available. At least we think that we have the space to do that. And so this right here is just to show that we're also doing Alaska this year. We're funding this with USGS. And so here's some of the ones that we have for other areas. This right here is from Majaro and Marshall Islands. This is the most important part I want to show you. Is this is available to anyone right now. All these image server services are available right now to everyone. This is a publicly accessible site. And we put quite a bit of resources into this to hopefully make it as robust as possible. But you can see, of course, that Hawaii is on there right now, as well as basically all of the PAC Basin. And so we have all of these layers right now. And that is the site. And if I just click that on right now, you could actually put this site into ArcMap or ArcPro as an ArcGIS service. I've got other information on how you can put it into QGIS and AutoCAD. I think I got a thing on this in a minute. But just to show you, just by even clicking that on, this is what it will get to you. These are the sites that are now available, and they're there. So if you wanted to go and if you just quickly want to look at Hawaii, you could. And there it is. They'll pop it up in its own map viewer. Of course, most of the time people use this like within ArcPro, ArcMap, that sort of thing. But here's the services from 2020, 2021 from Maxar. And we are going to update these later this year. So we're going to have a new version of Hawaii, not only on aerial, which I just talked about for NAPE, but for here on satellite. So you have a way of comparing all this information together. And see, there's a little bit of a drag. That's because the GeoTIFF files are at the base. But, so here's what the imagery looks like. There's metadata that's available. And, so that's all there. And also on this folder right here, it's actually within the US PAC Basin, and it's called Web Map Service Help. I've got some in here documents on how to load web map services from USDA into ArcMap, ArcPro, and we also have some customized videos for loading these data sets into QGIS. The reason why we mentioned QGIS is it's really popular if you get outside the government, especially into individual users, as well as into AutoCAD. And so our web map services, we show you how to use them. So that's something that we try to do is we make the data available, but we also show you how you can best use it. And it's got information on how to use the image server services. They actually are set up right now to where within ArcMap or ArcPro, you can select natural color or CIR just by selecting the properties within those applications. So here's the, for the satellite data, this is an example. The metadata is available. It's even available as a separate service. So there's an imagery service and then there's a metadata service. So those are both available to you. And the metadata will pop in just like you see right here. And again, it tells you basic information, image acquisition date. It also gives you the catalog ID of the satellite scene. And I've worked with people that want to know and say, hey, I want this satellite scene for this area right here. And you can get it. And so you can go to Maxar and download it and use it. So here's some other pictures of newer data sets. And so the imagery acquisitions for 2021 plus, I've mentioned about the USDA NAPE ones. And we're going to continue to get a vivid base map for Hawaii and US PAC Basin. There's potential we're going to get new satellite data in 2023 for all these areas. And I want to mention that USDA has put quite a bit of funding into getting data for Hawaii and the PAC Basin so that, hopefully our own agencies have the availability of a really good image service for our clients, but also to make this available to you as well, if you want it. And so this right here is a link of all the current data services. So the current satellite data is available here. The mosaics for NAPE are here. And in the future, we will have a NAPE web map service from USDA. We will build one, and it's going to be here. It's not available yet, but they're going to work on that. And so that's the end of my presentation. Is there any questions out there?
Hey, Tony, this is Arthur. Yeah, there was a question in the chat about providing the links from your presentation, but you're going to send us the presentation. Is that right?
Absolutely. And the links are inside here.
Okay. We'll post the presentation in the comments to the YouTube video and again, I'll send out an email to everybody when the video is posted. So hopefully that will, everybody will have a chance to take a look at that stuff. Any other questions?
I'll show you one other thing, unless you have other questions. I'll just show you. This is the new NAPE data. And what I want to show you is that the data comes in by a quarter quad. And so this is the data, more or less the way you'll receive it. And I will make sure that the state of Hawaii gets a copy of this data. But that's not what I want to show. This is right here. This is the unit that it's going to come in These are DOQQs. Each one of these tiles is 1 to 12,000, and there's about 500 or so in the Hawaiian Islands. So this is how we receive it, with 100 pixel buffer on each one. And so, and this, when we get this data to you, you will also get this here too. So this right here is the seamline file that has the image acquisition dates. And it should have been labeled as such. Oh, there they are. I guess you got to get it down to a certain scale. So, so here's the ones for Oahu again. So if for a web map service development in Hawaii, for your own government agencies and so on and so forth, we're going to get you the GeoTip files. It's really clearly better for making web map services. We'll get these to you as soon as they pass our QA/QC. Then probably get a hard disk to you, or I'll send out a digital link to where the files can be downloaded with an application. So that's the only other thing I want to mention.
Tony, I got a quick question. And you might have, I apologize, you might have mentioned it during your presentation, but what was the impetus for including Hawaii and Puerto Rico in NAEP?
We didn't do it originally because we didn't have that many contractors that we felt that were qualified for going and working in Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. It wasn't that we didn't want to do it. It's just that the last time we did an aerial acquisition in Hawaii, it was really, really difficult. And so, but we want to be fair with trying to get data for the NAEP program. And that includes trying to get data for all areas, including Hawaii. And so it was discussed that we should try again on including NAEP data acquisitions, try for NAEP data acquisitions again for Hawaii. And the last time that we contracted in 2021, it went actually fairly well. But just in case there's any problems, I want to have a satellite solution already in place as well. So we're going to have both available. Hawaii is unique. Everyone knows it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet, but you've got a lot of challenges with getting aerial photography. And I think we're going to end up doing two methods for doing that. And what we're going to do is I think that NAEP will probably be acquired again for Hawaii, either this year or next year, meaning like 24, 25. I think that we'll start the contracting on that. So,
awesome. Yeah.
You know, and the next time it's done, it'll probably be even higher resolution. My guesstimate is we'll probably get Hawaii probably or likely at 30 centimeter, and hexagon will collect it at 15. That's my guess.
Okay, great. And you mentioned it was like a 2 to 3 year refresh.
Well, they were in the continental United States, it's between 2 to 3 years. In Hawaii, it's probably, in Puerto Rico, it's probably going to be between 3 and 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to collect Hawaii and Puerto Rico in one season, and it's kind of a tough assignment for our vendors because they have to send out special planes and sensors. They don't reside there; they ship them out there. And so, and it takes longer. I also know for a fact that Hexagon and Certex, they've done, both of them have worked in Hawaii. Well, Hexagon's worked in Hawaii and Certex has worked in Puerto Rico. They only can really collect Hawaii, and you'll see this in the image acquisition dates. Almost all of them are going to be between November and March, because that's the only time of the year that the haze is low enough that when it's clear that we can get it. Because in the summer months, even when it's clear, it's kind of hazy because of a high level of humidity due to temperature and your climate patterns. And so Hawaii is almost always collected in the winter. And so we have to go and send multiple planes out during consecutive years, usually in order to collect it. So it's kind of a hard acquisition to do. We're running the same thing with LiDAR acquisitions in the Hawaiian Islands. Exact same thing. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maza has another question. How about drone-based imagery and its versatility?
Funny that you ask about that. We are in the process. We may do drone-based, UAS-based acquisitions in the near future in Hawaii, but it would be very, very site-specific. And it just so happens that I had a discussion with some leaders in NRCS today about this, along with some people in where I work at. And we're right now, what we're going to probably do is in USDA, only 3 agencies are actually authorized to use UAS drones or UASs directly. And in USDA, the only ones right now that can use them is the Forest Service, ARS, and Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. And so actually, we're trying to get certified to fly drones ourselves. This is NRCS and FSA. We actually have to get Congress to approve it first. And I think, as you can imagine, it's a pretty lengthy process to go through and get that done. And so what we're doing is we're partnering with Animal Plant this year. We're giving them some funding, and I'm going to show you here. This is a map of, and this is actually accurate. They've got a couple of certified pilots over in Hawaii and a lot of them in Guam. And so here is where they're at. This is Animal Plant Health Inspection Service. We expect to do some pilot projects with UASs in Hawaii, more than likely, but these are going to probably be for USDA projects in 2023, 2024, because there are a couple of pilots out there. Let's see if I could find them. They may be hiding under one of these. I've got, there they are. Looks like we got a pilot, and we got at least one pilot in Hawaii. We may have another. There's a whole bunch of them in Guam. And so we're gonna have them probably go out and fly some sample areas for us in 2023, 2024 to evaluate UAS technology. But I've been working in UAS for a long time, and UAS technology is much better than it was, but even if you get the winged versions of UASs, it's still best for smaller areas. You might be able to get a watershed, you might even be able to get a small island with the UAS, but it's going to be very, very difficult to do large areas because their camera systems just aren't that good to collect large areas. That's the real issue that comes down to it. On the NAEP program, for example, the cameras that were used to collect NAEP data, and let's see if I can get out of this and show you just real quickly. The NAEP data was collected with cameras that probably cost a minimum of $500,000 each, and then they get expensive. And so some people say, well, why is satellite data so expensive? Well, they've got 2 different types of satellites up in orbit, basically. They've got these smaller ones, and one company has called Doves, and they're not that expensive. But the ones from Maxar, for example, are worth $200 or $300 million each. And so it's a major expenditure. So, but they collect larger areas quicker. So we're going to definitely be doing UAS data collects. I was in a meeting 2 hours ago, and we're definitely working on it. But it's there you go. I finally got out of it. But it's not something that I don't see right now that a UAS technology would do in mass large areas. Basically, aircraft with these very, very expensive sensors is really probably more likely for doing large areas.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Tony, I want to thank you again for doing this presentation for our users. And looking forward to getting the PowerPoint, and
I will most certainly make sure you get a copy. I'm going to send it to you today.
awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you again, Tony.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Let me get back to this. Can you go ahead and stop sharing?
Okay.
I'll stop sharing. There you go.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Tony. Okay, so with that, I am going to move on to the next speaker. But before I do, I neglected to say that if you have questions, please enter them in the chat. Some of you already are. And Christine Chaplin is going to monitor the chat for me. Sorry, I was jumping in on your territory, Christine. So with that, we're going to move on to our next presenter, Chris Guerin. Chris Guerin is a surveyor with the State of Hawaii Highways, Department of Transportation Highways Division, Design Branch, Cadastral Engineering Section. He's going to talk about, I think, at least a couple of projects that he's working on right now. One is what they call the Pigeonhole project, or Pigeonhole figure somewhere in there, if you could explain that term. And then also, I think you're going to talk a little bit about the Height Modernization program and the CORS stations. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Arthur. Get this started here. Okay, let me get this thing. Sorry, the little technical. How do you get this to run?
You need to share?
Yeah.
So let's see at the bottom. Do you have the share icon?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, there you go.
You guys can see this?
Yep.
Yes. Get this. All right. Can you see that, Arthur?
We're seeing the presentation screen, not the
Okay.
actual presentation.
Oh. Okay. Is it going?
Yeah, but we're seeing the, the thing with the screen with the preview of the next slide and that kind of thing, and the notes. Can you go back to the sharing screen and select your other monitor?
Is that better?
There you go. Yep, that's better. Thanks.
Okay. Anyways, Chris Guerin with the State of Hawaii DOT Cadastral Engineering Section surveyor. Been with government quite a long time, 25 years, 8 years in the private sector. Worked on a lot of different projects for the DOT, from Saddle Road to the Height Modernization, digital leveling for the islands, updating the vertical network, and then also doing the CORS network, which hopefully everybody gets to see in the next shortly, at least maybe by next year sometime. But what I wanted to talk about first is the pigeonholes, which is actually kind of looks like, like the mailbox slots where they put the mail in your box, and it looks like we have like 800 of these pigeonholes. But what we wanted to go through is how we in the past got requests. We would get a request from, like a project manager, general public, from admin, just to, from everybody, anybody, and we would get these requests either through this form or through an email, and we would assign it to a surveyor, and they would try to look for where we have projects. And that was kind of a difficult point for us, because we would actually have to look through what we call this one Jerry's Maps, and it was actually somebody took the time to handwrite our Pigeonhole our, I guess, our project numbers and where they were located. And somebody started to write on the old tax map books. If you guys are too young, you may not remember these sectional maps, but they were actually a godsend to us because it had data, but maybe not the right data. Somebody misentered information, and nobody had the time to really go back to check on things, even when we wrote it in here. So a lot of data was either entered wrong or, just over time on here, you can kind of see it got smudged and no longer able to read. And in the past, we've only really concerned about was Oahu. Sorry about all the outer islands, but one project that we had was the ADA ramps that we had to start adding in all the outer islands. So we went to Long's, and Long's had these books, kind of like the Bryan's map, but not quite, but they served its purpose, so we started writing things down. And it took us a while to go through everything that we had and, just to look for things. So, we understand like how general public, needs time, the information in a timely manner. But for us, you're going through 800 pigeonholes, it took a while. So every time we got a request for scanning, we actually, the first generation that we produced were these maps that were very hard to read. They were large scale maps that we couldn't send anyone. And it was just really hard to read information. Over time, we got better software and scanning equipment. So right now we're using the Context HD 5450 Plus. Not to say this is the best, but this is what we have, and Wise Image. And so you can see the generation of the first generation and what we have now. The data is very clean and very readable. And the file size has dramatically dropped. So, when we do somebody asks us for a map, we actually almost can send it to them if they're like the regular size, but we have some that are like up to 20 feet long. And those not quite sendable yet, but we're almost there. In the past, how we delivered maps was we got the request, we would print them out as they went along. The general public would have to come to our office, pay for the maps, and then once we get the receipt back, we'll release the information to the requester. So a lot of time was spent in researching, printing, and sometimes we had consultants not pick up their maps, kind of a waste of money and time for the state. Then COVID hit. We actually had to kind of change a lot of things on how we had to do things. So when COVID hit, they told us everybody start working from home. I copied every map that was on our system. Synced it up to OneDrive, but you can kind of see we had about 21,000 maps, and we uploaded, and it took about 5 to 6 days because OneDrive kept restarting, and so it was kind of like really kind of a pain in the butt at the beginning, but we worked through it, and we were delivering maps to the general public and to consultants and to our PMs. To make sure DOT was getting jobs out and done in a very timely manner. And we are still doing this even today. We are getting things out. After we uploaded all that, we started bringing everything else into a OneDrive. So currently we have close to 300 gigabytes worth of survey data for all our surveyors and drafters in OneDrive, just so everybody can work safely. During COVID, we we started, I made the Excel sheet started, but then we actually went through every map, took the name of the map, the project number. Over here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but what it is there is we did the data folders, field books, calculation, everything to create this Excel sheet. What I was trying to do was make it easier for anybody else to look for maps that they could, search the Excel sheet for the project number, project names. And eventually we started to add in the TMKs, which will, speed up a lot of other things. So even up to today, we're still updating this Excel sheet. At a certain point in time, talking to the guys, Keith, Derek, and all the rest that are contributing to this GIS, we will at some point stop updating this and then switch over to a new product. During COVID, we had talked to our project branch manager, Karen, about going to a GIS system just to help search. And she understood that we got to do things faster for everybody because everything is digital now. Everybody's demanding things faster and getting things done in a timely manner. So this was our first project into GIS. Thanks to Derek, Keith, everybody else that worked on it, lots of help just to get to where we are now. So what we've kind of completed everything. We're adding things in like graphical search names, places, landmarks. And we did a first submittal to the AGs to get their blessing to take this live. This is not quite live yet, but the AGs wanted a splash screen that, we're disclaiming everything, the GSI data, survey data, and everything under the sun, we're disclaiming everything. This splash screen will always appear now. In the first original iterations, it wasn't there, but Esri took a lot of, they helped us a lot by getting us to this point where we've covered a lot of the AG's comments and questions, and hopefully with the next submittal, they'll be happy to let it go live. So our search is, we allow a lot of search ways. We also have a search radius. Allows you, as you can see, this is close to Dillingham and the airport side. So you can see we have a lot of projects in just that one area. We have 7 right-of-way projects. It shows TMKs, bridges, and for our surveyors, we want to also know where the NGS controls are. So we added that in. It allows you to select how wide of a search area you want and everything else. And again, we have the NGS controls. Part of the pigeonholes is for us, when we're researching, we want to give out to the general public. We would note down the pigeonhole number, email them, and so we may have multiple emails going to one consultant or general public. So the way we wanted to do this was to make sure everything's linked together, that when they look at this slide and they click on the right of way, they will be able to click on the links and see the directory. And I'll do a live demonstration for you guys so you can see that it pulls up the maps for that area in the TMKs and also what bridges are in here. So for us, the next step that after we're doing this with a lot of help from the DOT, MASA, and also from Casey, we are going to take the next step by going to the Parcel Fabric and actually doing I guess the next step for us to make this a lot more manageable, to show the the outer edge of what we own, and also all the easements with links to the calculation folders, data folders. So all these folders would be visible to all the DOT people. May not be visible to everybody in the DOT because maybe they might not be able to see it. So that's still, we're up working on this right now as to who sees what information. And DOT is also converting their right-of-way maps into CAD files, but will not be available to anybody outside of the DOT. You know, just we want to make sure that all this information is only for inside, and again, only for DOT use for now. So that's part of what I have for the Parcel Fabric. But I'm going to talk about two other, and I'll go to the Pigeonhole after for a demonstration. But DOT is working on two projects also right now, and that's actually modernizing the vertical network and also doing the cores. So right now on Oahu, we've done radio interference check. So what we did, we set up a temporary GPS. This is kind of our test equipment with sandbags, collecting for 1 week's worth of data. On Oahu, we're in the environmental review. Hopefully it'll be done soon. Our engineering drawings up to 30%. Maui, we are underway, Lanai, Molokai, Kauai, and we just started the Big Island collecting all this data. The data is kind of huge. Anywhere from 600 to 700 meg GPS data files. So we are actually putting all this equipment on top of the roof. We're taking 360-degree view pictures. We're using Trimble's spectrum analyzer data to look at what interference are coming through and what the frequency areas, and you can kind of see this is a 3D map of this area here. Again, all the data is collected and then we look through it and just to make sure everything looks clean. So going through some of our data, we've actually noticed we've got some problems. So this is a school out in Kailua side. And this is just to show you that even with the modern GNSS receivers, we still can get interference. So the collector was sitting about here, and you can see the two trees, these two trees cause a lot of interference just from satellite data coming down through here. And the sky plot showed that we lost just a little bit, but not enough to affect a lot of things. So all these lines are all the tracks of all the satellites coming from horizontally all the way through to the top and then exiting out the back end side. So a lot of data and a lot of information that we look through. The other thing that we're doing is the leveling for updating the vertical network. Oahu is done. Everything Cadastro does, we publish to NGS's data site because we want to make sure everybody has the data. So on the NGS website, you will find this data explorer. It will bring up what areas have been done and what's not been done. So Maui, it's been completed, all on the website. Lanai is finished. Molokai is still ongoing. The Kauai digital leveling has just started, and it still needs to be accepted, adjusted to NGS second order class 1 standards, and then Big Island to follow. So let me open up the other one. Just so the demo. Can you guys see the screen, the disclaimer?
Right now we're seeing your any questions slide.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Gotta go back to that sharing thing. How about that, Arthur?
Yep, got it now.
Okay. So again, like I said, the first screen that's always going to pop up is this splash screen disclaiming everything under the sun, and agree. Okay. And then brings us into the data. So the first thing you guys are going to notice is on the screen where we have data, which is the red, where we don't have data. So down here, we don't have data, no data. Up through here. So if you're looking for a map and you're in the HANA area, you're going to know that's going to be sparse or we don't have anything at all. But so the main thing what we wanted to show you guys was a search. And as it fills in, you can turn on aerial imagery if you want, make it easier for you. But so as you can see, the search area you can change up here, you know, for the width of this area. So, you know, if you put it to 500, and you clicked on something like this, it'll bring in what pigeonholes it found. So for us, it's, you know, inside DOT, you click on the link. Again, there we go, this one. It would go out to my OneDrive and actually bring up, oh, hold on. Can you guys see this, Arthur? The OneDrive?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so everything in that pigeonhole is able to be seen, and you should be able to just click on one of the pigeonholes and actually bring up the survey information.
Me too.
And why we're trying to do this is, again, speed up everything that any consultant or any of the general public can look through this data quickly and faster, instead of asking us for, you know, to do the research. But again, if you run into areas that you're not sure, always to send us a you know, a request for information, and we're more than happy to do it. But that's about it, Arthur, unless anybody has questions.
I got a question. Parcel
ahead.
Fabric.
Yes, sir.
So how do you synchronize with what the counties are doing when they make adjustments to their parcels?
We are not quite there yet, Arthur. We do want to sit down with the county and actually have a discussion as how do we get both our data on the, you know, close together, on the same page. I know there's some issues where we looked at the data and it's, you know, it's been digitized, but I understand too that county is also starting their Parcel Fabric. So, you know, at a certain point in time, it would be best that both of us sit down and actually kind of figure out what we're trying to do together. But I know that's not answering quite your question, Arthur, but
No,
you know,
it's you did, and you recognize the importance of that. I'm asking because there are other data layers that people are maintaining that are related to the parcels that the counties are updating. So yeah, it's a bigger problem than just DOT highways.
Right, and you know, and we understand that how, you know, we understand we are not the, you know, the final authority, you know, because, you know, county does their own, each county does their own thing. How we put this all together is going to be a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of answers going to have to come from you, Arthur, and Joan, is how, and Esri is how do we manage all this and put it together nicely.
Not an easy, no one solution, not an easy one.
No, not, yeah.
I have a couple other questions. Can you kind of quickly explain what the CORS network is, and then also what leveling is?
Okay, the cores are continuously operating reference systems that are going to be running 24/7, 365 days a year. The receivers are going to receive all the GNSS information. So GNS, GPS, GLONASS, Baidu or Baidu, I can't remember the names. All the different operators, you know, all the frequencies we're going to acquire, all that goes into a central server, and it will be sent out to the end user in the field as it's requested as a stream. So centimeter accuracy to anybody and everybody in the system. So what we're hoping for is that the community, the servers I know are biting at the bit to get on this soon. And we're hoping that the GIS users and even the drone guys, the end users will use this this service to make things easier for data collection or more accurate in the end.
Okay, thanks. And leveling?
The leveling. Okay, so leveling is we are following NGS's second order class 1 procedures to level from tidal gauges that are located in the harbors like Hilo Harbor, Wili Wili Harbor. Sorry, can't remember the name in Maui, and then Honolulu Harbor. All those marks are operated by the NGS and the cores. Of course, the title guides, and we come off their data and then run networks around the island, and NGS adjusts to their data and then publish it. So I think the last one was like 2-something meters, and based on the tidal epoch, I think it was every 19 years. So I think we're due for another update soon, Arthur, because I think we're coming up on the next title update. So that will change a little bit again.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Anybody have questions?
Chris, so what you're saying is that's how you determine elevation primarily, especially for surveyors. That's primarily leveling.
Yeah, and the other thing is part of the course you will have high accurate ellipsoidal height coming out of the system. So we will both have orthometric heights, high accurate, and ellipsoidal heights coming out of the course. So either way you need your elevation, that's how it's going to come out.
Thank you, Chris.
You got it.
Okay, anybody else? If not, I want to thank you, Chris.
Oh, thank you, Arthur, for the invite.
No, it's a very interesting project. In fact, I had invited Reed and Meyer from State Survey Office. They're interested in doing something sort of similar to the Pigeonhole.
Yeah,
some parallels.
They have a lot of information, a lot more data history than Cadastro, and and from government to government, it'd be easier, when we talk to Reed and Myers, because they can come in and look and really see behind the curtain what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again, Chris.
Thank you.
I'm going to sort of open it up now to the Esri folks. If Gretchen and Todd, you're still on the call. Any announcements or information you want to pass on to our users?
Yeah, thanks, Arthur. I guess we want to talk a little bit today and just share information about the enterprise agreement that's in place with the state of Hawaii and kind of the different software and other offerings that's included. So just take a few minutes to do that. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, let me know if you can see that title slide, the
Yep,
enterprise.
got the title slide.
Great. So thanks, Arthur, for giving us the opportunity to present to the group here. And aloha, everyone. Actually, I don't think I have my camera on. Let me just turn that on really quick. Nope, I'll leave it off. I don't know why it's not working. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Todd Kingman. I work closely with Gretchen Chiquez, and we're part of your account team here in Honolulu. We partner with departments across the state of Hawaii, in addition to working closely with the state of Hawaii counties. We do also support other government organizations throughout the US Pacific territories like American Samoa, Guam, Saipan, around use and access to Esri software and services. So I think everyone is pretty knowledgeable when it comes to GIS, but if there are those who are not familiar with Esri and GIS, we are the largest global geographic information system software company and provide our users with powerful location intelligence, data management, mapping, and analysis capabilities. Our technology enables a geographic approach to solving the world's most challenging problems, providing tools for measuring, visualizing, analyzing, making decisions, and planning. GIS and the geographic approach provide a framework of sorts for applying this integrated geographic knowledge widely. And I do want to kind of speak to, Chris's use of the technology. It's really impressive to see where Chris and his team came from and where they're at now, kind of going from writing in paper map books and in-person processes, filling out forms to what will be a fully online self-service system. For those who may not know the different components that was used, basically what they're leveraging for that solution is ArcGIS Online as a platform software as a service. We have a nearby instant application. It's like a templated web map application that the data is viewable and accessible through. And then we actually have, there's an experience builder wrapper that's around that nearby instant app that actually allows that legal disclosure functionality that you would need to acknowledge the legal language before you access the app. So anyway, it's really exciting. They've been doing some really great work, excellent vision of how GIS can be used for their team to kind of further their processes and streamline their workflows. So we're really excited to see that project come to fruition. So the state of Hawaii has made an investment in our technology through an enterprise agreement, which serves as an enterprise resource that all state departments can benefit from. The current agreement is a 3-year term contract, and the state of Hawaii has made sure that there was an active enterprise agreement in place for close to a decade. The current contract was executed in July 2021 and will be in place until June 2024 or through fiscal year 24. And then we go through a process of renewal. The enterprise agreement is a blanket agreement that covers all state of Hawaii departments and agencies and provides those entities with access to much of Esri's powerful software and mapping capabilities. State users can take advantage of flexible on-demand access to the various uncapped offerings that you see here. ensuring that our technology can scale based on needs without having to worry about costly and timely procurement. Our uncapped offering incorporates ArcGIS Desktop, which includes ArcGIS Pro, and most of our standard extensions. And the EA also includes licensing for Esri's server and enterprise technologies, which can help you to organize and manage your location-based records, supports multi-user editing and analysis across the enterprise. And that's some of the technology that the DOT folks are looking to leverage regarding how they manage right-of-way data and utilize Parcel Fabric. The State of Hawaii Enterprise Agreement also provides limited access to some of our software. And this includes primarily Esri's software as a service offerings, such as ArcGIS Online user types and extensions, ArcGIS Hub, and ArcGIS Enterprise Creator user types and extensions. If there's interest in utilizing any of the software included under the agreement, you can reach out to Arthur or Joan, and I believe that there's an internal process to manage requests and provide access to software. Depending on the software, some of the limited access items may have restrictions based on availability. And the state also gets 20 passes to our annual user conference that's held in San Diego every year. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. If you'd like to go, then you can reach out. I think Arthur mentioned that there's some passes available. I think there's a few left, and they might be able to help make arrangements so you can get free entry into the user conference. So all state of Hawaii departments can also utilize the Esri Advantage program, which is part of the state enterprise agreement as an option. And the Advantage program is focused on helping with training and technology enablement for business-related workflows, which are aligned with GIS priorities and initiatives. So what Chris provided an overview earlier was an application that we worked closely with them to develop under the Advantage program. And partnering with the DOT design branch, cadastral engineering team, Esri GIS subject matter experts help to integrate the digital PDFs with the right-of-way data into GIS application that Chris shared earlier. And as I mentioned, we're currently working with them to help integrate the right-of-way data into Esri Parcel Fabric. So part of the approach with the Advantage program is kind of more strategic, and it's a program to help with enablement. So not only helping to provide strategic guidance on how to use the tools and technology and subject matter expertise to help lay out and process the workflows, but also help to build knowledge within your organization of how to use the technology and how to convert data, as well as configure tools and follow workflows within technologies such as like ArcGIS Pro. We're also working with the GIS program in support of state enterprise initiatives with the Advantage program, in addition to supporting HIMA and the Office of Homeland Security through this program. The Advantage program, as I mentioned, is meant to be strategic, supporting planning, pilots, and knowledge transfer around technology implementations, basically looking to work with you and partner with you to identify a pathway towards successful projects. So we mentioned the Esri User Conference. You should definitely consider joining us in San Diego from July 10th to 14th. It's the largest GIS conference of the year. And in that conference, you can hear about the latest GIS technologies that are coming in the plenary. You can receive specialized training, engage with exhibitors. There's a large exhibit floor with various vendors that partner with us, and network with your peers and subject matter experts. There are many focus sessions and industry-specific summits and user groups, which are based on your interests. So if you're interested in learning more, hearing more based on your area of expertise or interest, please feel free to contact us. I'll put my email in the chat, and we can help you find some different sessions that you might be interested in. But again, there are those user passes that are included in the enterprise agreement, which can be utilized. And if those get used up, we might be able to find ways of getting additional passes potentially. So that's all that I had to cover. I want to check in with Gretchen, though. Gretchen, was there anything that you wanted to speak to or talk to the group about?
Just one announcement. We are having an instructor-led training. It's going to be online, but in Hawaii time on August 5th. It is it's our new training course about Experience Builder. If you want more information, feel free to contact us or contact Arthur and John, and we can give you all the details. And that's all I have from my side.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gretchen. That's all we have, unless there are any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Todd and Gretchen. I just want to add on about the training. Gretchen mentioned the instructor-led training. You all have access to Esri's online training resources. If you go to esri.com/training, sign in at the top right with your AGOL credentials. You can search for different training topics, ArcGIS Pro, Arcade, Dashboard, Survey 123, whatever your particular area of interest is, and you'll see a list of stuff come up, or information about different courses come up. You as state employees can take anything that says free or requires maintenance. You just need to make sure that you sign in with your account. Anything that says instructor-led or that has a dollar figure associated with it, we do not have training credits available this year, so you would have to pay for those. The videos, the free videos generally are going to be 1 to 3 hours, something like that, and you can always just Google different topics for ArcGIS online or GIS and generally find some sessions as well. But I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware that you have access to that training, and if there is a particular area of interest that you have, you can also let us know. We have through our Advantage program with Esri, we have access to a training coordinator, and he can either put together a learning plan for you, which would be basically a link to different videos, sort of stepping through in a sequence, or he can point you to different training resources. But a couple of different ways for you to access additional training. So with that, let's see, does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, it looks like we're going to wrap up a little early today.
I have a question for Chris. Actually, I went and looked at the NGS, the Data Explorer. I can't find any of the course stations. On the map. Is that because they are not published, or?
Is Chris, are you still on the call? I don't see your name.
He's probably gone. Okay.
Yeah, I think he had to jump to another meeting.
Yeah, there was another meeting. Yeah. All right. All right. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Maza. Anybody else? Okay, if not, I'll give you 15 minutes of your day back, and thank you all for attending, and have a great day. Thanks.
Oh, Arthur, this is
Yep.
Keith from Cadastro. To answer Maza's question, none of the core's stations have been constructed yet, so we're still in the design and construction process right now. So you won't find the course networks that we're currently doing right now up on the website, because it's not even done and tested yet.
Keith, do you know about what that time frame looks like?
For Oahu, we're looking like middle of next year, hopefully by the end of next year at the latest. And then after that, Maui's going to come online, and then Kauai. And it'll probably take an extra year for each one. And this is due to environmental clearance.
Okay.
Big Island's gonna take a while because of some seismic concerns that we have on the Big Island.
Oh, interesting problem. Yeah.
It's kind of odd. Big Island's gonna be some trouble.
Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, everybody. When the recording is ready, I'll post it on our YouTube site and I'll send out an email. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you. Have a great day.